Memento mori, Stuart whispered the phrase to himself over and over as he picked both of his bags. The first was his gym bag, which he would be utilising this morning. The second was his medicine bag, which he would use later tonight. Once both bags were packed, he mixed his pre-workout blend to enhance his gym session, slung his gym bag over his shoulder, and walked out his bedroom. The brilliant sunshine hurt his eyes as he emerged from the poorly lit sanctuary he called his room. As he closed and locked his front door, the wind picked up and rustled the door. Squinting, he looked up at the sky. A bird of some sort circled his garden. He imagined it to be a bird of prey, looking for a meal to swoop down and capture. This thought made him smile. What a life such a bird must live, taking life as when it sees fit. The drive to the gym followed the same routine every day, with hardcore rock thumping from the speakers to rile him up. Once completed, more routine followed, with a shower and protein shake while getting dressed. The drive home would be the complete opposite of the previous trip, as Stuart would listen to softer soul music and take in the beautiful trees that lined the roads. Often he would even give $1 or $2 to a homeless person that would come tapping on his window for change. Humans are creatures of habit, and Stuart is no different. The only difference in the routine of the day would be the night festivities of this particular evening. Most nights he would cook dinner, eat in front of the television, and then proceed to watch more television in his bedroom. Tonight, however, was the 42nd Thursday of the year, an arbitrary fact to most, but not to Stuart. Tonight was his night to indulge. Just as he let out the maniac in himself on the drive to gym, tonight was the night he let the maniac out, loose on the world. People do not change much from youth to adulthood. Some maturity occurs, but the general character and behaviour of the individual remains. Stuart had always wanted to help the world, at least in a way that he saw fit. As a youth, this involved cleansing his neighbourhood of stray dogs and cats. He took no actual pleasure in the act, no more so than a postman would rejoice delivering mail. He simply felt it was something to be done. As he did it over the years, his method of euthanization had evolved from bludgeoning the animals to squeezing their necks until he heard the sick pop of confirmation that the neck had broken. But as all things in life evolve, so did his target for cleansing. Stuart had grown to realise that in order to cleanse the world, it was not dogs and cats that needed to be cleaned. It was the people. The people were the sickness. 41 Thursdays before the chosen night meant that he knew exactly what he was doing. He planned out his routines, as well as who his patients would be. Access to the sick was yet more proof that people cared not one bit about the sick. Throughout the course of his planning, he would walk into various hospitals. Talking to the nurses, he would gain the knowledge of whether they would still be in need of his services when the glorious night came. The ease and success of his planning was yet more proof given to him from God that this was indeed his mission in life. He worked from home as an architect, but Stuart had always wanted to be a doctor. He may not have the qualifications, but the work he did was equally as important. The only difference that Stuart saw between himself and traditional doctors were the clothes they wore. His choice of dress for the task at hand was a heavy overcoat paired with an authentic 1620s plague mask. After all, he couldn't risk getting the sicknesses. Once home from the gym, Stuart cooked and ate before taking a nap in preparation for the big night. He set an alarm for midnight, but the excitement for the evening woke him up 15 minutes before the scheduled time. He lay in his bed in the dark for a moment. He felt at peace in the dark. He looked around in the darkness at the outlines of the furniture in his room. His light breathing was the only sound around him. He flexed his toes and arched his back to stretch the sleep away. He sat up straight in the darkness. Stuart was ready to begin his night of work. Memento mori, he proclaimed to the darkness. The patrons of St. Barnabas ward, that for the mentally ill, were long asleep by the time the wind blew Stuart through the doors. He had his medicine bag in hand and the plague mask on as he sat beside his first patient. He never rushed the process. Each patient was as important and deserving as the next. Stuart picked up the patient chart and read the name out loud. James, I absolve you of your sins. May God have mercy on your soul. Memento mori. And with that, Stuart inserted the needle deep into the arm of sleeping James. The pancuronium bromide slowly left the syringe and set to work causing powerless and respiratory arrest. This method of cleansing was the best Stuart had found prior to this. He had held a pillow over the face of his patients. He moves from patient to patient with the obvious speed of a very experienced executioner. As he injects the saving liquid into his last patient, her eyes suddenly shoot open and stare into the hollow eye sockets of the mask. Memento mori, Stuart tells her as she looks at him in confusion. All she manages out is Birdman, before her muscles lock up and her breathing stops. He strokes her hair gently and admires his work. She is silent, and he knows he has done a good job. God's work. Packing his utensils back into his bag, he heads back home. He has work tomorrow. Life goes on. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. My name is Simon. It was a Friday night and I was really looking forward to tonight's game. I'm a quarterback in my local high school football team and my girlfriend is on the cheer team. There was a lot of stress this week between my girlfriend and another member of the team, Sarah, but thankfully all their trouble has been sorted out. My girlfriend Louise can be very high-strung at times. I hadn't seen my girlfriend since yesterday. I got into a huge fight with a guy, and when it was over, I just saw my girlfriend cry and run away. There must be something wrong with her phone, because when I tried to call, all I got was static. I was cheating on my girlfriend with Sarah, but my girlfriend never approached me about it, so I wasn't certain that's why they were fighting. And I know my girlfriend, and she would definitely approach me. It was time to kick off and I was hyped up. We were playing a rival school, Moontown High School. Our team, Lime Street High School, were on top of their game this season, thankfully. But tonight's game was very important. The game started off very rough indeed. There were guys kept running for me and it was like they were targeting me. To make matters worse, I had butterfingers because the ball just fell out of my hands once I caught it. These guys seemed to really have it in for me. I was exhausted at half-time, and when I walked into the dressing room, everyone ignored me. I didn't know what was happening. Suddenly, I went out on the field and waved at my girlfriend, and she was ignoring me also, and just started cheering with the rest of her team. It was after the game I felt like I was having a nightmare when my teacher got up to speak to everyone. Okay everyone, it was a decision made by the school council that we play this game in memory of Simon, and even though we were on the edge of calling it off, we decided to play the game in Simon's memory. He was such a great student and great player. I tuned the sound of my teacher out, as now I remembered getting hit by a yellow school bus, running across the road to my girlfriend, so excited to see she was talking to Louise. I tried for weeks to get them to be friends again, and when I finally did, I got hit by a school bus. But it was then I remembered a few weeks ago we were messing with a new kid in school who was into witchcraft and said if we wanted something to happen, we needed to sacrifice something we love. I then realised I made a pact with the new student to my girlfriend and Sarah be friends again. Then I walked up to my girlfriend and Sarah speaking. I couldn't believe what I heard my girlfriend say. I swear, I was so angry at him cheating with you, I didn't even realise I was going to push him in front of a bus. I didn't even see it coming. What if there was CCTV? I was wondering why I didn't remember her pushing me. Then the student from my school walked up to me and said, "Don't worry, this was all mapped out for you. Don't you see? I died too, but came back to life." I was shocked, wondering what he meant. Then suddenly, I could hear voices and see lights. When my vision came around, I noticed there were doctors standing over me. He said, "Welcome back, kid. You're a fighter." My girlfriend came in a couple of minutes later with Sarah. My girlfriend started crying and took my hand. She whispered, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I replied, "It's okay." I told my girlfriend a few weeks later, when I recovered, about my memories of playing the game. She said there was no game, it was called off. The strange guy from school kept telling me that he was messing about coming back to life. But after researching him online, I learned that he was brought back to life after being clinically dead after drowning. He was hailed as a miracle boy. The drowning happened a year ago. When I approached him about it, he told me it would be better to forget the whole thing, because when he decided to tell people about the sacrifice, etc., they just thought he was crazy. The boy looked confused. Then I got a phone call from my mum telling me that my girlfriend was hit by a truck. I had then realised why the boy looked confused. Then he looked shocked. He said, more than likely she hadn't known what the sacrifice would be. I got angry with the boy and shouted, "What do you mean?" Then my girlfriend walked up to me. She hadn't realised she had been killed. The boy said, "You can see dead people. That's the thing about this." My girlfriend smiled and said, "What's wrong?" I had then realised the reason I came back to life was because my girlfriend wished for me to get better, not knowing that she would sacrifice herself. I was sitting on my own on a dark night, waiting for the bus. It was past midnight, and I wasn't living in exactly what you'd call a safe neighbourhood, so I was a bit tense. I noticed some movement from up the street and gave a quick glance. I don't know how many, and I don't want to appear too nosy, so just sit down and look right in front of me. There was a man and a woman who stood right in front of me. I didn't need to even turn my head to notice, as they were there right in front of me. The man seemed to have been holding up a woman. More than likely she was drunk. I didn't make a sound. Suddenly my phone rang. I wasn't in the mood to answer, so I just let it ring out. The man shouted, "Who's there?" It had then occurred to me that the man was blind and didn't realize I was there until my phone rang. I spoke. "I'm just waiting for the bus." Suddenly I could see blood pouring from the woman and realized that the man was holding a knife. I froze in horror and got up and ran all the way home, which was a mile. There wasn't a second passed that I didn't think the man was going to jump up on me. Even though he was blind and it would be virtually impossible to him catch me, I didn't get the bus for a few weeks. I was so scared. I walked a mile to work and from work. But after a few weeks, I plucked up the courage to get the bus again. I was waiting once again at midnight, and there was a person in a trench coat standing next to me. My phone rang. Suddenly, the man in the trench coat grabbed me, shouting, "I knew I'd hear your ringtone again." I regretted having such a unique ringtone, realizing that the man who was choking me had been the blind man that night who realized I was there after hearing my ringtone, and he knew that I was the same person after hearing it again.